Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, two senior economists attached to the Ministry of Trade and Industry are here this morning to discuss the work that the Ministry of Trade and Industry has been undertaking and how these initiatives are expected to impact citizens in the coming months, I understand. So it is our pleasure to introduce Senior Economist, Trade Directorate of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Trudy Lewis and Neville Alexander. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we are very excited to find out about these specific trade initiatives. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Alexander. What can we expect?
Okay, good morning to your viewers. We at the Ministry have pursued a number of initiatives in keeping with our mandate to develop and grow trade, especially non-energy trade. And this morning we'll talk about a couple of those initiatives. I will speak to our trade mission strategy. At the mission, we have developed a mission strategy to really help coordinate the way that we conduct our trade missions to get more results. We have currently a strategy that we are looking to renew, so we should have a new one by the end of this year. But currently, we have a strategy that focuses on a couple of sectors that the ministry has identified in keeping with the government's national objectives that we would want to get our exporters into. So we're looking at markets doing better in CARICOM, in the USA, a big traditional market of ours, Guatemala, Venezuela, and a few others. We're also looking at focusing on assisting and getting exporters from several sectors, agribusiness, the food and beverage as well. So for the benefit of the exporters, the mission strategy really would help give them a good support in penetrating the markets that we have targeted. So what would happen is we would do some work beforehand to assist exporters, get them prepared. We do a number of pre-mission work where we would go interview stakeholders in the intended markets to get a sense of what is possible, what are the best business partners we can match up with, and a whole lot of other things. So we wanted to share that and really highlight it more to your viewers and to the general public that they can always approach the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Export TT in particular to really find out more and to get involved in the trade missions that we are hosting so that they could get themselves out there.
Great, that sounds pretty exciting. So what sort of support? You mentioned that there would be some level of support being offered to certain industries. For instance, you said the agribusiness industry as well as the food and beverage industry. So what sort of initiatives can we look forward to exactly?
Right. So in the conduct of missions, our main export promotion agency, Export TT, they provide a number of assistance to exporters. So what they would do is provide a lot of market research on where our exporters would do best in a particular market, on what opportunities are there, as well as help them do some matchmaking between some of the key stakeholders in the markets so that the negotiations for contracts could be done. And there's also a whole lot of other initiatives that Export TT provides for export support, training, and things like that.
Training as well?
Yes.
Great. So, Ms. Lewis, are individuals taking advantage, or what is the response you've been getting so far from these initiatives outlined?
Well, with respect to trade missions, we can say that private sector is really interested. The last trade mission we had, we went to Jamaica. It was in combination with the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, and we had 17 companies go with us on that trade mission. When we went on the trade mission to Panama and Costa Rica in April, we had a little less. We only had about 6. So some of the companies are really taking advantage of what we're offering through the trade mission strategy. we still have some more work to do, and we hope that others would join us.
Yeah, great. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, we had the CEO of the Chamber of Industry here on set, and they were discussing some really great initiatives. I understand that a lot of business people are now moving away from purchasing goods abroad and reselling, and now they are manufacturing items. He also mentioned that someone who would normally bring stuff down and resell is now opening an ice cream factory. Someone who would normally import tires from Turkey is now manufacturing tires here in Trinidad and Tobago. However, he did outline some setbacks, some current challenges facing us. One, the industrial relations climate. Two, crime. What can we do?
Well, you mentioned two tough issues really to tackle, but we have at the ministry recognized those as important issues that need to be addressed to really help with the business community and the trading environment in particular. Crime is something we really, at the ministry, really can't deal with so much. The most we can do is look at ways that we could help the business community and exporters mitigate the impact on crime. The other issue you mentioned, remind me again.
The industrial relations climate.
The industrial relations, that is also a difficult issue. Labor, the dynamics between labor and the employees and the employer has been one that we have been struggling to really find quick and tangible solutions to. We have had some discussions with the Ministry of Labor. There are a number of programs that the Ministry of Labor is pursuing that we are promoting through Export-TT for our employees and manufacturers to utilize more. We have been looking at a number of initiatives that could really address some of the productivity issues that are reaching our desks from the manufacturers, as well as looking to see how we can get the employee sides and the issues that they have addressed as well. But it's not an easy task, definitely. But the support that Export-TT is providing, we are hoping that if we can speak to it more and get the word out there that people could really approach all the different support services that they have. It could kind of help treat with those issues like what you mentioned, crime and so on. And I think it's important to let people know that there are a lot of services available to exporters, and we really encourage them to approach Export-TT to take advantage of those.
In the budget, the Minister of Finance would have mentioned the Exim Bank also being the foreign exchange dealer. How is that working out right now?
From what I understand, the Exim Bank recently got its license in order to provide foreign exchange. So it's in the early stages, but it's making progress. Okay, great. And that plan should soon be operational.
All right. So I understand also we have the market access to grow local businesses. That's another area of focus. What is there to know about this?
Thanks, Vina. In terms of market access, the Ministry of Trade and Industry's role is to create the enabling environment. So we go out and we negotiate trade agreements for our manufacturers and exporters. We also take part in the implementation of those trade agreements. And so we can look forward to improvements in the list of products that we can export to Cuba, because Trinidad and Tobago, as part of CARICOM, has recently signed an expansion to the CARICOM-Cuba agreement. So once that expansion comes into law, then all of our manufacturers and exporters will have more products that they can send to Cuba. We're also working to fully implement the Trinidad and Tobago-Panama trade agreement. It's a partial scope agreement with a list of products, so our manufacturers and exporters are already using it. And as I mentioned from our trade mission, we're promoting it and asking more exporters to get on board to export to Panama. We also have a number of other trade agreements with CARICOM, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Colombia, and so we're just encouraging our exporters to get on board. TTMA is also, sorry, not TTMA, Export-TT is also planning a trade mission to Colombia later this year. So we'd like our exporters to sign up early and get on board, because the more you're in the market, the more opportunities you have to do business deals and export and create a better economy for our citizens.
Great. Now, Mr. Alexander, are citizens taking advantage of these opportunities?
Well, there are some that are doing it, but we would like to see more of that. What we've noticed, for instance, with the trade missions, some of the more recent ones, in 2016, we did some with the UK, the France, Netherlands, and those resulted in some business deals worth about 18,000 US. And then in 2017, we did some with Martinique, Suriname, and so on, and that resulted in upwards of 63,000 US dollars. So there are people that are utilizing it, but we really need more of that, because we think it's undersubscribed. So what we are doing, and one of the reasons why we're here today really, is to encourage people to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and how important is it really for us to take advantage of these opportunities for greater business activity, for open trade and access to new markets in particular? How important is it?
Well, I imagine in the current climate, I think it really brings the need for moving away from what we have traditionally been doing more important. We have seen the performance in the energy sector, which has been our largest contributor to the economy for the longest while. So there's really need for us to move into other areas, and the services that are there are geared to helping our non-energy players really to do better and to reach out there, so that we really get the kind of economic shift that we're looking for in the long term, so that we could really minimize the impact on the reliance that we have had on the energy sector to the economy.
Agreed. Well, we'd like to take a very short break before we continue with this conversation. So let's get to that break now. Much more when we return, exactly with this said interview. So this question is for you, Ms. Lewis. The implementation of Trade Facility Agreement, what is on the agenda as far as it pertains to that?
Thank you, Verna. The Trade Facilitation Agreement is the latest agreement in the World Trade Organization. Since the World Trade Organization was established in 1995, we've had a suite of agreements, and then there's further negotiations during the Doha Development Round, and in 2013, member states of the WTO finalized the Trade Facilitation Agreement. Now, this agreement allows us to improve the way goods are moved within our country. So we are looking to improve the release and clearance of goods at the ports. And several years ago, we had lots of problems with the ports. And once this agreement is implemented, we are hoping that Trinidad and Tobago will improve our performance in terms of imports, exports, and goods in transit. And what that means, Vina, is that it will boil down to less trade costs. So our importers would have less delays in getting their goods into the country. Exporters will also have less delays getting their goods to leave the country, and goods that are transiting Trinidad and Tobago to move on to another country can get through much faster. Basically, it boils down to benefits for our traders and for our consumers, who are usually the users of some of these goods that come into Trinidad and Tobago. So the good thing about the Trade Facilitation Agreement is that it allows a developing country such as ours to determine what commitments we can undertake at this time. So the agreement has 12 articles, and we have chosen certain articles that we will implement immediately when the agreement came into force, and that was last year. But the majority of the obligations of the agreement, we have opted to implement them over a period of time. And we have established a National Trade Facilitation Committee, and that committee has developed a national implementation plan, which plans to implement all the obligations over a 6-year period. So we are hoping that after the next 6 years, if everything goes well, we should see a better environment for trading goods within our country and to and from other countries.
Okay. Do you have any update for us with the manufacturing sector policy? Any information on that? I know the minister would have mentioned it at some point in time.
We are still working on it, so it's not yet completed.
All right. Now, Mr. Alexander, you would have mentioned productivity, and you said that we definitely rely heavily on our oil and gas sector, energy sector. Why do you think, even though the economic downturn is upon us, a lot of the times we're not coming out and making that extra effort to take advantage of the opportunities that you all would have outlined? What is the setback?
Well, there are many things that could account for how things play out in the economy. What we have been trying to do really is to create an enabling environment to allow for persons with interests and opportunities that they see to really go out there and take advantage of it. So our focus has been on removing barriers, removing obstacles, and making things easier. So initiatives such as what we are doing with the single electronic window, which really is to put online a lot of the services involved in trading, setting up a business, and registering a business, things like that, to make it as easy as possible for new players and existing players. We have also, as we mentioned, a number of different policies. We are looking at an e-commerce policy as well. We're also looking at an export strategy, which would also provide support and make it clearer as to what the government's strategy is and intent is. So our focus has been in those areas, really, to try and get the kind of shift in the economy that we really need. And we are hoping that with all the support that we have gotten so far from the stakeholders, that we could see some movements in the near future.
Yeah, and based on your assessment, over the years, do you think that people are actually coming on board?
There are some positive signals that we are getting, and we have been trying to really build on those. With anything, there are always difficulties, there are hurdles that we need to overcome. But we have built a good relationship with some of the key stakeholders, with the manufacturers, the business communities, services providers as well. So we have a relationship where we communicate constantly to try and figure out what the issues are and what are some of the solutions to move forward.
Great. So in our final 2 minutes, to just open the floor. Any initiatives that you'd like to highlight once again, or anything that we can look forward to from the Ministry of Trade?
Well, just to wrap up with the trade mission strategy, is just to say that the strategy, it's there, and it's available for all exporters, businessmen who maybe are looking to go to a particular market or to ramp up to another level to export. I may not be sure quite how to do it. You can visit Export TT and they would guide you through. We can call, let me give you the number, 623-5507 at the Export TT, and inquire, and they would guide you through, and you may even hear about other services that they provide that you may not be aware of.
Great. Your closing comments, Ms. Lewis?
Thank you. Just want to remind everyone that the Ministry of Trade and Industry is committed to building globally competitive businesses. So as Mr. Alexander mentioned, we have a number of initiatives, services, support to businesses. So we just like to encourage them to come and talk to us, talk to Export TT, and we will try to assist you as much as possible.
Great. Thank you so much for being part of our show.
Thank you.
Most appreciated. That number to call once again is 623-5507. Thank you once again. News is up next.